Thank you again for that lead. That was fantastic. Can we give her another round of applause? I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who's also traveled some miles to get here, and he is my sponsor, and I'm honored to call him my sponsor. And there's a reason that I maintain my sponsorship as a long-distance relationship, because he is very dedicated to this program with a lot of time clean, but a lot of experience. He's got a wealth of knowledge about the steps and the principles in this program, and there's a way he speaks to me, and he doesn't just tell me how it is. He challenges my thinking and helps me see things that I can't see in a way like nobody else has been able to, really, you know. And so please give a warm, sunny welcome to Marty W.
Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, everybody. My name is Marty, and I'm an addict. And I didn't get nervous. It was Nancy, right? Linda. I didn't get nervous until Linda said thank you for the last time. First of all, I would like to see a show of hands. Who's got less than 30 days here? Okay. What I want to say to you with all honesty and sincerity is that there is no person in this world who is so broken and so damaged, regardless of what you've said to yourself, what others have said to you, the judge, your parents, society. There is no person in this listening area that is so broken or damaged that does not deserve the opportunity that Narcotics Anonymous has to offer. Nobody, no human being should be damned to the miserable existence of active using. So give yourself a break, give yourself a chance. As I said, my name is Marty, and I'm an addict, and I think Linda and I have about the same time, because when I came in, I heard the same thing that she heard. You know, our stories are very different. I never did 90 meetings in 90 days. I did not do all of the things that they said not to do in the first year. I did say I had a relationship for the first year, but I went to school for, you know, I had to do something different, you know. And my point of all that is that there are a lot of different ways to get clean, but the most important way to get clean and stay clean is don't put no freaking dope in your body. It's just that simple. If you don't know what the next right thing to do is, you probably know what the next wrong thing to do is, and don't do that. Because if you don't do the next wrong thing by default, you've done the next right thing. You know, and the next wrong thing is always putting dope in your body, regardless of. I've got a lot of blessings. I've lived through a lot of things. I'm going to put this down for just a second here. Sorry about that. When I first got clean, we had somebody in treatment who had 12 years and gave an H&I meeting, and I thought this person lived. I mean, I couldn't stay clean for one day. I couldn't stay clean in jail. I couldn't stay clean in jail. You know, and here's this person with 12 years clean telling me, you know, sharing their experience, strength, and hope. You know, and I thought this person walked on water. And so for the newcomers and for everybody, I want to show you that I am not perfect. So for those that can't see, what I got is a hell of a sunburn. Okay? And I know better. I know better. I lived in Arizona. I got cleaned in Arizona. I know what the southern sun can do to you in a very short period of time. I was out from 12 until 4 yesterday afternoon, even though I had sunscreen on. And I let you guys know that I'm not perfect. Because when I got here, if you had 12 years or 2 years or 3 years, I thought you were perfect and walked on water. I don't walk on water today. I've tried. I sink, you know. So if you're new here, please keep coming back clean. Please keep coming back clean. You know, newcomers. We say the newcomer is the most important person in any meeting. Okay. When I got here, somebody said an addict is an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And what a wonderful thing we do for newcomers. We tell them you're the most important person at any meeting. Somebody with an egomaniac, who's an egomaniac and has an inferiority complex. What I will tell you is you're important to me, because number one, you remind me, and sometimes I forget, what the disease of active addiction is really all about. Okay? And number two, I can only keep what I have by giving it away. I can share my experience drinking home with you. But I want to warn you a couple things, and I'm going to call myself out because I'm guilty of this. Okay? I don't know about Linda, but every time I let somebody get close to my inner circle, and they go out and they use, they take a piece of me with them. And I got a limited number of pieces that I can let go of. Okay? I'll give everybody everything I got. My sponsees know that. But I got a limited number of pieces that I can let go of. So you know what? When you first walk into a meeting in your first 30 days, everybody claps, hooray, hallelujah. You know, here's your meeting list, here's your meeting directory, all that stuff. After about 30 days, all of a sudden you're no longer a newcomer. We've moved on to the next newcomer. Be aware of this. It's not that you're any less important, okay? But we've moved on to the next newcomer. Now it's time for you to show me what you're going to do. I don't expect you to do everything. I don't expect you to sit there and have experiences of somebody who's got 10 or 11 or 12 or 20 years clean. But like Linda said, keep showing up at meetings. You know, no matter what, don't use. Keep showing up at meetings. Honestly share about what's going on in your life. You know, if you think it's hard with a few days clean to share about what's going on in your life, honestly, try doing it with 30 years. Try doing it with 30 years when you hear somebody with a couple years talking about how well and wonderful life is, and you're sitting there saying, what the hell did I do wrong? I missed the boat. You know, it's hard. But they told me everything I learned in Narcotics Anonymous in my first 90 days has kept me clean throughout my clean time. Okay, so I'm wearing a t-shirt that I got from the Arizona Regional Convention called Planting the Seeds of Recovery. But instead of talking about, I want to talk about the tree. Okay, so there's a tree in here, a fully grown tree. And that tree didn't just wake up one day and became a tree. It was a seed first, and then it had to grow, and it had to grow, and it had to grow. Recovery is a process of growth. So what I would like to share about, I hope, what my higher power would have me share about is some of the gifts that I've gotten in the process of recovery. And I keep saying the process of recovery because sometimes, you plant a seed, it takes a long time for some of that stuff to grow. Okay, so my using career started sometime in May 1980. I graduated I moved away from my graduating high school class for 2 years, and I came back and went to, we were in Michigan, and went to a beach kegger. And that was the first time I ever got drunk. And I made a complete and total fool of myself. The second time I got drunk, I got sick, which I hate to get sick. The third time I got drunk, I got into a fight with my very best friend. I should have known, because I've got somebody else in my family who's in recovery, that this was not the path to go down, but I chose to continue down the path anyway. Okay? My younger brother of 2 years got me high for the first time in the fall of 1980. I found my drug of choice, and I said, I'm not going to go any further than this. Okay? I'm not going to go any further than this. And we all know, if you're an addict, you know how that story ends, right? And go way beyond that. And it was real important that I started to get high with my brother, because he and I were real tight growing up. We came from an alcoholic family. And anybody who's come from an alcoholic family knows the destruction and stuff that goes on in an active alcoholic family. I'm grateful my father got recovery. I'm grateful my father brought recovery to me. Okay, but he didn't necessarily do it in a kind and loving way. So I started getting high with my brother, who, he and I were buds growing up. You know, we were each other's rocks. And I continued to get high, and we kind of separated and went our different ways. I moved back to Arizona. He was in Michigan. I continued to do the things that I needed to do out there to get to the point of what I like to refer to as step zero, the shit's got to stop. He and I got in trouble with the law a couple times. He went and joined the Navy and got kicked out. I continued to be in Arizona and do all the things that we do, and finally I got arrested and I got a case. And the judge sentenced me to 90 days in jail. And that was the beginning of my end. Now, there was a lot of stuff that happened in between there, but I got a short period of time. That was the beginning of my end, because I never figured a good guy like me belonged to go to jail, okay? And so I went to jail, and it was in jail that I was introduced to Narcotics Anonymous through H&I, okay? It was through Narcotics Anonymous people in Arizona that introduced me to Narcotics Anonymous in the jail. I could not stay clean for the time that I was in jail. I could not stay clean. I did things I never thought I would do before. My release date is March 1st, 1987. My clean date is March 2nd, 1987. So obviously I sat and did everything that everybody, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and blah, 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 blah. And the minute I got out, I drank one beer and I told my dad I was going to go to the program and get my 28-day key tag in 2 days. And he had the audacity to tell me the truth. He said, well, I don't know about your program, but in my program, you got to start your time over again. And that was just the thing that he needed to say to give me one more resentment against him. And I said, screw you, I'm going to go out and get loaded on my drug of choice. And that day, my drug of choice abandoned me. I like to read, we do recover. When at the end of the road, we find that we can no longer live. We can no longer function as human beings, either with or without drugs. We all face the same dilemma. What is there left to do? There seems to be this alternative: go on as best we can to the bitter ends, jails, institutions, or death, or finding a way to live. In years gone by, very few addicts have had this last choice. Those who are addicted today are more fortunate. For the first time in man's entire history, a simple way has been proving itself in the lives of many addicts. It is available to us all. It is a simple spiritual, not religious program known as Narcotics Anonymous. You see, when I got to the end of the road, it wasn't the worst day that I used, but it was the last day that I used. That was my step zero. The shit's got to stop. It's got to stop. I don't know about any other addict who hears this, but I know for me, even today, you know, the good news is step zero, the level of pain that I have to go through to get to step zero is a lot less, but I still got to get to step zero to become motivated sometimes, you know. Because I'm not going to work step one, you know. Why should I admit surrender and powerlessness over whatever it is that I'm dealing with if the shit doesn't have to stop? You know, I'm certainly not going to come to believe or turn it over, and I'm not going to write about it and share about it. You know, I'm not going to do that stuff. All right. I got clean in Arizona. I went to school the first year. Best thing that I ever did. Okay, I know everybody said don't make any commitments in your first year. I went to school the first year. I found out something about myself. I found out that I wasn't as dumb and I wasn't as worthless as I thought I was. My father asked me, he said, how much is that going to cost me? And I said, F you, ain't going to cost you nothing. I graduated with honors. I graduated with honors. I was a BC student in an industrial arts classes at my high school, and I was taking electronics engineering technology, something I never thought I would ever want to do. Graduated, I moved to California in February of 1989. Okay, I moved to California, and I was excited to go. You know, I had a new job, doubled my income. The God that I serve is a long ball player. Really is a long ball player. I just got to be patient and wait for the play to finish. So I moved to California. I started going to meetings. That was the closest I ever came to 90 meetings in 90 days. I was given some bad information about women in the program, so don't get involved in a relationship with women in the program. They're all crazy and nuts. And it's okay, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I was lonely, you know. And so I started doing events. My first event was the Northern Arizona Convention Narcotics Anonymous, and there was somebody there that was there at the same time I was. And then I went whitewater rafting on the American River. I never did that before. Would never have done that loaded. And there was somebody there who I wasn't with, but was there. And then my sister came to live with me, and we were on the hotline, and she did a few things she shouldn't have done on the hotline, and she got me a sponsee who would not come to where I was living. And I talked with me, and I want to work this stuff. I can't do that. You got to meet. I got a sponsor. Went to a camp out in Rollins Lake, California, and we got washed out. But there was somebody there. And when I met my sponsee, and finally he started telling me some gossip in his home group, and I had 2 years clean, and I knew a lot of stuff at 2 years clean, and I was going to go show them exactly what all I knew at 2 years clean. And when I got there, she was there. And I gave him his first assignment was to find out all he could about her. But see, the God of my understanding put her in my life, in my circles, even though we didn't meet, for 6 months before I even got a chance to meet up with her personally. Okay? When we got married, before we got married, my brother, who was still in Michigan, his wife called us up and said 6 months before we got married, "Hey, you need to talk to this clown. I've had it with him. Okay? I've had it with him, I'm done with him." Now, I had gone, when I was in California, I had gone back through Michigan to the East Coast for some training. And he took me to a meeting in Michigan. And he said, "You know what, I don't have a problem." I said, "Yeah, I know, I get it, okay, but if you ever do, just let me know." But he drove me to a meeting in Michigan, which became his home group when he finally got clean. So when we got married, his wife and 2 kids had a plane trip back. He did not. He stayed with me for a few months, and I tried to get him clean. It didn't work. I carried the message. I can gratefully say today that he's got 25 years clean. 25 years clean. And I'm honored to be able to share that message, to be able to have shared the message with him. Okay? My wife, I've been married for 26 years, I think. We got married in 1991, do the math. I've never been in a long-term relationship ever in my life. I've had 3 jobs in recovery, 4 jobs in recovery. One lasted 10 years, one is still current, one 14 years, and then one for 1.5 years when I got here. I lived in California for a few more years, and then I lost my job in 1991, and I moved out. I had to move. So I ended up in Chicago. And this is kind of important because number one, it was only a temporary move. And number two, I was really angry with God because I didn't give him permission to remove me from California. I really, seriously, I held a resentment against God for like 10 years because I couldn't see the value of me coming to Chicago. When I got to Chicago, we started doing the things we needed to do. I'm also a cancer survivor. Yeah, when my youngest son was born, that same year I got stage 4 cancer. And God had put people in my life up to that point so that when I got to that point, you know, I could walk through that process. I could walk through that process and I didn't have to use. You know, and I know we're getting a little short on time, so I won't go the whole story, but I learned God's grace during that period of time. I learned God's grace during that period of time, and I'll be happy to share with anybody who would love to hear that story after I'm done speaking. I've got 4 kids. I got an 18-year-old. I empathize with you. I want to kill this kid. I do. There are times he got into a spat of stealing where he would steal from the family, and the police had to be called to our house. And I wanted to punch him, and I envisioned punching him, clocking him right in front of the cops. I really did. And I've never really physically abused my kids before because I was physically abused when I grew up, and I didn't want to do that. The God of my understanding put somebody in my life who taught me how to be a better parent. My wife is an early childhood educator, and she's been in early childhood education and child education since she was 18 years old. She taught me how to be a better parent, you know. So when my daughter was 2 years old. When my daughter was 2 years old, there was an event that happened in Chicago where a boyfriend had killed a 2-year-old girl. And it so traumatized my wife that she said, I need to do something about this. And so she decided she would start working with parents of young children through the school district. And she eventually ran into somebody who got her connected. Now, her first client was a young girl who was the same age as my daughter, who was developmentally delayed, came from a very dysfunctional family. And she worked with that daughter, and that girl, eventually she moved on, and the older sister became a babysitter for us. And we took our kids to meetings. We do something in Chicago every year, and it was by the request of the fellowship, actually. We have our kids give us our medallions. My wife has got 2 years yet less clean time than I do. And our kids every single year give us our medallions. And we started to stop that process about 6 years ago, and they said, no, I gotta have you gotta continue to do that. So this girl, fast forward, this girl's sister came to work for my wife 5 years ago. This girl, 4 years ago, this girl had a baby on March 1st. And she could not take care of this baby. And we got the baby and became foster parents on June 1st. He came to us with a broken leg, 4 broken ribs, and a concussion. And my point of that story is that God put in place, I finally found out why I was supposed to be in Chicago. You know, my youngest is 18. I got a 4-year-old at home. You know, the God that I serve is a very, 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 very long ball player. You know, I'm grateful that my brother got me loaded, because if it wasn't for him getting me loaded, I wouldn't be able to get him clean, give him the opportunity to get clean. You know, I'm grateful to God and my understanding put my wife in my life. And you know what? And that wasn't spiritual principles that drew me to that meeting. It was gossip and stuff. I got to tell you, I don't always practice all the spiritual principles in all my affairs. The day that I got out of jail, and I realize I'm jumping around a little bit, the day that I got out of jail, there was this big guy, this big guard. He was probably 6 foot something and 3, you know, like this and down. And he had a very deep gravity voice. He said, "You'll be back." And I muttered something about his his father's heritage, and said, "Yeah, I ain't never coming back to jail again, ever, ever." In 2013, I started carrying an H&I meeting in Narcotics Anonymous in DuPage County Jail. And that opportunity to do that happened at a very, very, very inconvenient time in my life. You know, I was going to 2 different colleges with 4 kids and a full-time job. And I had put my application in a year before, and they called me up when all this insanity was going on and said, "Hey, can you do this?" It's like, "Yeah, I guess I can do this." My wife looked at me, she said, "Are you ever going to stop?" And I've been doing that. That is the most rewarding H&I commitment that I can give, because there are people that are going to be serving a long time for as a result of their crimes that they committed in active addiction, you know. And I get a chance to see them in the rooms every once in a while. I do get a chance to see them in the rooms every once in a while, and it's a very, very, very rewarding thing. I have been very, very blessed in recovery. I wish my mindset was that I got up every day and was very grateful and all that stuff. I'm not. You know, sometimes I struggle with being, you know, I don't struggle with staying clean. You know, on a 365 continual day basis, I can think maybe 5 or 10 times where the thought comes up. Okay, and it's usually on a hot day like this, and somebody's carrying a beer, and man, that looks really, really good. You know, and I got to be honest with myself. Yeah, that would be really good, but not for me. You know, a nice fresh bag of weed still smells beautiful. I don't smell it that often. I don't go there, but I still remember how that smelled. That is wonderful. I'm not talking about the dirt, you know, the ditchweed stuff. I'm talking about the good stuff. That smells great, but that's not great for me, and I'm not confused about that. You know, when I happen to cut down the aisle at the Jewel or whatever the grocery store is, and they got blue booze there. Okay, I've never had blue booze, but it's booze, right? I'm not confused. Booze is booze. I know what booze does. I know what drugs do. I'm not confused about that. You know, I've got a very good life today. I really do, and I owe it all to Narcotics Anonymous. Okay, I didn't come from a perfect family. I didn't come from all that stuff. Okay, and I still got some childhood issues to work on. I still got some issues going on, and I'm here to tell you, if you're thinking people with 20, 30, 35 years clean, 25 years clean have got it made, not so much. You know, we're still struggling on some level with some of the same stuff that you may be struggling with. You know, the only difference is that we've learned one day at a time not to put drugs in our body, and no matter what, don't use no matter what. That's it. There's still issues to deal with. You know, I'm going to close. You know, Addicts are very tenacious people, and if somebody were to ask me after the meeting, after this share, you know, what is it what, 3 things that help you stay clean, I would say diligence, vigilance, and persistence. Okay? Diligence, a constant and earnest effort to accomplish what is undertaken. Persistence, certain exertion of mind and body. Does that describe an addict who's using? Surely does. Can also describe an addict who's clean. Vigilant, keenly watchful to detect danger and wary, ever awake and alert, sleeplessly watchful. Okay, you know, that's an addict who's using. That can be an addict who's clean. And persistence, to continue steadfastly or firmly in some state, purpose, course of action, especially in spite of opposition, to last or endure. You know, there may be days that the only champion you have is you. Because if you've been out there ripping and running for a long period of time, you've probably burned a hell of a lot of bridges, you know? And people may not believe you when you say this time it's going to be different, I promise, this time it'll be different, you know? It takes time. It takes time to go through the process of getting better right thinking, you know? I can't think my way into better living, but I can live my way into better thinking. You know, and sometimes it takes a long time to let go of those things that keep us from better living so that we can get into better thinking. And I'm just going to close with what I started with. Again, if you're new, if you're just coming back from a relapse, there is no person within the sound of my voice who is so damaged and so broken that they are damned to live the miserable existence of active addiction. Thank you for letting me share.
Thanks again, speakers. Give them all a hand. It was great.
Great job.